Good afternoon, folks. This is a bonus episode of Skeptic and Scaredy Cat called Doran's Stories, and these stories are written by none other than my little brother Doran, who is an aspiring writer. He's a fantastic writer. I asked him to write me some ghost stories, and I figured why not put his stories into their own little segment of a bonus episode on the weekends. So every weekend I should have a new story to read for you. Some of them might be long, some of them might be short, and that's it. I'm sure he would love to hear your feedback, and I would love to hear your feedback, so please leave a comment. And if you're new here, subscribe, leave a like on the channel, and check out our full-form long podcast on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you listen to podcasts. But anyways, let's get right into Doran's first story, Life After Life. When I died, what came afterwards was nothing like I imagined. There was no fiery inferno of hell attended by demons and imps wanting to torture me, nor were there any fluffy clouds or pearly gates with a guy named Peter standing outside as a bouncer. There was no cessation of existence either, or at least not in the way that I imagined it. I thought that oblivion meant the dissolution of the self, a sharp and sudden loss of sight, smell, and sound, just an inky void as black as the space between stars. That could have happened had I bothered to get in the right headspace while still alive. I guess I had too much ego or something, too attached to my sense of self for my spirit to get the memo and dissolve like the body it just evacuated would be doing over the next couple of years. But for better or worse, emphasis on the worse, I like being me. Now I have to keep being myself as the world, the one my mind still thinks it's in, and move on with my departure from it. You could call me a ghost, though it's nothing like you see in movies. It's more like a one-way mirror. The living get to, well, live in the world, and I can see that world just fine, but no one can see me or the world I live in. I say live in, but I can't really call what I'm doing living. I'm more of the light being cast down in the night sky, still shining on although my star has gone out because the speed of light is not that fast in the grand scheme of the universe. One of the worst things about it is how even after all this time, my mind does not want to acknowledge the situation. I was watching my funeral from afar, having long given up on trying to reach out and console my family because everything I could say and do refused to travel through the barrier of life and death. I saw my son taking these great deep breaths in and out, trying not to hyperventilate. That was when I realized I hadn't been breathing since I had died. I gave it a try right then, and while my mouth opened and my lungs did what they were supposed to do, no air came out, and I realized that while I was heartbroken about how hard my family was taking my death, especially my wife, I wasn't crying. All the emotions and impulses from before had carried over into the space afterward, where I could not act on or express them. I am not the only one who came over with luggage. It's hard to pick them apart from the rest of the living. We don't have much to say to each other if we do meet up. There's not much to gossip or talk about after death. Sometimes, I like to hang around hospitals and hospices, waiting for someone to croak. And when they do, sometimes they rise out of bed feeling oddly chipper, looking around confused, see their dead body resting on the bed they just got out of, and scream. Not all of them end up like me, though. Sometimes people die the right way, with the spirit going as well as the body. I've never seen someone who commits suicide shrug off their bodily form like a bad cold as I did. No, I suppose if they were already convinced that life wasn't worth it, they weren't particularly attached to their sense of self. I heard that it was supposed to be a sin to kill yourself, so maybe they got snatched up by the devil before they could join me, but I wouldn't put too much stock in that idea. I've met some fellow dead people who seem to me the textbook definition of evil, so maybe there is no hell. Or there is, and I'm in it. I'm not the only one here who's concluded that this unexistence we're all in is reserved for bad people. It's hard to keep track of exactly how much time has passed since I died. At some point, it became an effort to keep checking calendars because there's no real reason to schedule. But I know it's been years, maybe even decades. And in all that time, I've kept reflecting on one question. Was I a good person? I never did anything egregiously awful like rob money from a charity fund or abuse my loved ones. But did I do anything good? Other than impregnating my wife, how involved was I in my son's life? I spent time away from home working in a cubicle to support my family. But maybe I could have done the opposite instead of sacrificing time with my family for work. I shouldn't be caring so much about it anymore. My son is an adult and my wife has moved on and found another husband. He's a nice guy. I kind of just hang around the house now, the house that used to be mine, the one where I suffered a heart attack in my sleep. I could go anywhere in the world, and I have the nifty trick of being able to walk on water. Still, I don't feel like walking across the ocean to Europe or Asia. It would be more of the same, except I wouldn't be able to understand anyone, living or otherwise. So after my family left to live with the guy who replaced me, I made a fantasy world. I pretend that I'm still alive, just divorced, and that my family left me instead of me leaving them. I go through the motions. I wake up and pretend to brush my teeth, take a shower, and make breakfast. Then I walk to where I used to work, loiter in the break room, go home, and spy in the neighbor's house to watch TV through their open window. With all this introspection, my talking to you might be the best thing that's happened to me in years. I never thought I would get to speak to a living person again. You know what I said about me being a one-way mirror? I think that's what's happening here. You pressed your face so close to the glass that you can see through to the other side. Don't worry, you're still alive. It's just, well, I guess you'll have to hear it from me first. Your heart gave out for 10 seconds. You slept through it, but yeah, for a moment, you were dead. So I don't know how much longer you'll stick around for. The doctors say there's a 50-50 split on you either getting worse or making a recovery. Do you want my advice? Don't fight it. If you fight against death, you think you have a lot to live for. The more a person wants to live, the higher the chances of living afterward. I know I give the impression that it's not so bad on the other side of the mirror, but it is. I think I honestly would rather be in hell if it exists. This is just life after life, life without life. And hey, if you get better, then that's great, but everyone dies eventually. That is what's so great about living, that it's not forever. And that was Doran's story, Life After Life. And I guess it's talking directly to the reader. That was really cool. Why did I have headphones in the entire time? I'm not listening to anything. Fuck! Anyway, I thought that was a really cool concept, the idea of a ghost, essentially, kind of talking to someone who has been in a near-death situation. You just suffered a heart attack. I like that the perspective is that he's talking like directly to you and just explaining this life after life, this like little nothingness. You're living in the same world you were living in before, but you can't interact with anything. You can't really do anything. You can't feel emotions, breathe, cry, etc. So it's just kind of like a pointless existence. I don't really understand how this guy ended up in this pointless existence. It sounds like he wasn't evil. He didn't go to hell. He had a heart attack and he died. But I think Doran is saying that maybe because he was so attached to his life and his self that he couldn't move on from the real world and ended up stuck in the real world, but also in the afterlife. Great work, Doran. And thank you guys for listening. I hope you enjoyed the story. Please leave some feedback. Let me know what you thought of the story. And if you like these little bonus episodes that I'll be posting on the weekends, it's just one of Doran's stories per week. All right. See you later.